Good day to all of you nice people all around the world. Thank you for joining me. We are meeting every day during the month of April at noon Pacific time to really step back and be light bearers and space holders. Thank you, thank you. And if you'd like to say hi and where you're from in the chat, it's kind of nice that people from all over the world are coming together. So I saw an interesting news article recently, and it noted that as the lockdown or quote home sanctuary has gone along, there's been an increase in cases of domestic violence. And actually, I'm not surprised because when people are used to doing their own thing, being out about and not dealing with their upsets or issues or fears or resistances back home, when you're stuck in the house with somebody you're having a hard time with, whether it's a spouse or a child or another relative, it tends to be like a boiling pot. So I want to talk today about how we can use the situation of being, quote, stuck with people you're having a hard time with, or somebody you really love but have some issues with, how we can turn that into a blessing. So many years ago, I used to travel with my buddy Charlie Thweet, who's an excellent musician. And by the way, he's offering a free concert today. Go to his Facebook page, Charlie Thweet, Thweatt, and he's giving a free concert. Anyway, we were on the road for about 7 years doing lots of programs. I would do the lecture and he would do the music. And we spent a lot of time in the car together, driving many, many hours from city to city sometimes. And we got along pretty well in general, but occasionally we would get on each other's nerves and have an argument. We got over it quickly, but there was that moment of tension sitting in the car for hours. And so we made a joke out of it, and we began to call the car the Chamber of Awakening because we were stuck in the car. And, it forced us to confront each other, any little upsets we had about each other. And because we were both conscious in our own way, trying to do the work, we would use it for healing and forgiveness and processing and taking care of our own part of the argument. And so I want to suggest to you that not only is the lockdown, which I don't prefer to be called, not only is it a home sanctuary, which I sort of prefer, but being at home for an extended period with your family or others, let's call it the Chamber of Awakening. Now let's put this in a bigger context. Course in Miracles tells us that relationships and processing them and healing them is the fastest and most powerful way to God for people in our culture. And there's a wonderful section toward the end of the text called I Need Do Nothing. And it says, you can sit in a cave and meditate, you can do your yoga, you can do your contemplation, you can do your prayer, and these are all effective means to enlightenment. Do them. It says, however, there's a faster way. And it says that the faster way is to deal with relationships in your life and do what you can do to transform them from fear to love, from enmity to connection, from resistance to kindness. And it actually says many times in the Course in Miracles, it says your brother is your savior, brother and sister, same thing. And now what does it mean by your brother is your savior? And it doesn't mean it's Jesus Christ coming to save you. It means the Christ is in that person. But what it really means is that when you're upset with somebody, you are attuned to fear and resistance and judgment, which keeps you in prison and it keeps the other person in prison. You may think you're locked up in your house, but you're really locked up in your judgments if you're having upset with somebody. And the Course actually says that when you keep somebody in prison with your judgments, you have to sit in prison with them at the door of their cell to make sure they don't get out. That's the effect of judgment. And so, Jesus said this in the New Testament. He said, judge not that you be not judged. Well, he wasn't just talking in a linear time fashion. He was saying the moment you judge somebody, you're angry with somebody, you fear somebody, you resist somebody, you are judged not by God who's mad at you, but you have now gone into the consciousness of fear and resistance and judgments. So now you are subject to your own judgments, even while the other person is subject to your judgments. Now, the other person may not choose to accept your judgments at all. They may be out playing tennis, having fun, living their life, having a good life, but your judgments keep you in hell. So what the Course is trying to teach us is that if you can shift from fear to love, from judgment to forgiveness or acceptance, then that's the map out of hell. And it talks a great deal in the Course about the difference between special relationships and holy relationships. A special relationship is when you set somebody off as being your savior or being your devil. And a holy relationship is when you see the God in them and you love them just as they are, and you accept them and you support them. And the relationship is not about what can I get, but how can we help each other to be free and to be happy. The Course in Miracles goes on to say that the holiest spot on earth is where an ancient hatred has become a present love. Don't you love that? The holiest spot on earth is where an ancient hatred has become a present love. Meaning, if you can take this darkness that seems to be between you and somebody, that puts a veil over their face and you see them as a devil rather than an angel, if you can find the courage and the energy to lift that veil, then you see the face of God and there's a healing. And that relationship becomes so empowered now because it's now based on forgiveness. And forgiveness doesn't mean you let people walk all over you or hurt you or continue to be abused. Forgiveness means that you recognize that you're bigger than that other person's actions, that you don't have to respond in kind, that there's somebody inside that person who is whole, even in the spite of their misbehavior. And there's somebody inside of you who is whole, even in spite of your misbehavior. And so what we want to do is get out from under guilt, making other people guilty, making ourselves guilty. There was a movie I saw years ago. I forget the movie, but this guy, I think it was about the Woodstock Festival or some rock festival, and some guy went around and just took people and said, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault." And he'd just walk up to them, and people would break down into tears because everybody had something that they thought was their fault. And when he said, "It's not your fault," in a way he was channeling God who was offering forgiveness. So can we offer forgiveness to the people who bug us, especially when we're stuck in the house with them for weeks? Well, take some practice. I know it may not be easy, but it's doable. And, there's this concept of soul contracts, which says that the people we're in life with are not by accident, that we make deals with people before we're born. And some deals we make with people could be a parent, a sibling, a close friend, a relative, a teacher, a priest, who some will just love us and be loving, supportive, beautiful partners or friends for our whole life. And others will challenge us. And we grow through the challenge. If we don't have somebody to challenge us, we don't make progress spiritually. So when somebody challenges you, when you have that uncle who you go to Thanksgiving dinner, he's always telling bad jokes and insulting you and calling you names, in a way, he's your best teacher because he's the one who bugs you the most. And the one who bugs you the most is the one who offers you the most potential for transformation. If you can love that person anyway, or at least not react to them, at least hold your peace, then you have graduated from the school of Uncle Morty. And you're done with him. Either he will go away and leave your life, or he will, maybe he may still say things that could bug you, but he doesn't. And let me tell you a story I've often told. I don't think I've told it in this particular series, but it's so powerful. I want to tell it now. That I was teaching in Greece, and a woman named Georgia raised her hand, and she said, I was married to a guy who was very emotionally abusive, and I asked him for divorce, and he said no. And in Greece, I guess it's harder to get divorced than it is in the US. So she said I had to stay for a while at least. So I decided to somehow give myself the love that I wasn't getting from him. So I wrote myself a love letter, as if it was from a lover. And it said, "Dear Georgia, you are just the most gorgeous, wonderful person. My life is so much better because you're in it. You touch me, open my heart. I can't wait to be with you." And she just wrote herself this wonderful, inspiring love letter. It felt really good to receive that love from somebody. And it felt so good that she wrote herself another one the next day. "Oh, Georgia, I can't wait to be with you. You're just so beautiful." And she did this every day for a couple of weeks, writing herself a love letter. And every time she read it, she felt uplifted. Well, her husband one day found one of those letters. And since it was unsigned, he thought it was from another man. And he came to her waving the letter in his hand saying, "I can't compete with this. You can have your divorce." True story. Now, why do I tell it? Well, what she did, well, let's go into this. We'll talk more about this in another session. But all negation, all conflict exists by agreement. Somebody's upset, you get upset, you lock with them like Velcro. Upset is a frequency, and response to upset is a frequency. If somebody gets upset and you choose not to get upset, you are vibrating at a higher frequency, and there's no Velcro. You understand it cannot go on. So what that lady Georgia did was she literally loved herself out of a bad marriage, because there was no more agreement that she deserved to fight with this man or be abused emotionally by him. When she rose to another altitude, if planes hit turbulence, they rise to a different altitude. So what she did was she rose to a different altitude. There was no more agreement in the marriage, and he had to leave. Now, in other cases, in a more ideal scenario, the other person could shift. And I've heard this in many, many relationships. You don't have to just get divorced. That the other person could say, "Wait a minute, you are now loving me. You are now loving yourself. So let me join you in that love. I am so inspired the fact that you're now loving me and loving yourself that I want to meet you there." And so many relationships have been transformed by someone taking the first step to be the lover. Someone taking the first step to return to love. And the Course in Miracles tells us that this is really the ideal way to heal a relationship. In some cases, divorce or parting may be required. In some cases, that works. In other cases, preferably, if you can hang in there and choose love and transform that situation from a dark one to a light one. Once again, the holiest spot on earth is where an ancient hatred has become a present love. So now there's one more tip I'd like to give you today, and that's that there's a method I teach people if you're in a situation that's distasteful. And mostly I use this with people who say, "I have a bad job," and people are gossiping, "My boss is a pain in the butt." And I say, what you do is before you go to work, you sit and you surround yourself with white light. You put yourself in a sphere of positive energy. And you say to yourself, "No matter what happens today at work, I will maintain my peace. And if at the end of the workday, I can still be peaceful, no matter what anybody says, no matter what criticisms come my way, no matter what complaints, my one goal is peace, inner peace. And if I can do that by the end of the day, my workday is a success." So I want to suggest you do this if you're in a challenging situation at home, somebody's making noise, somebody's arguing, somebody's listening, somebody's not cooperating. As you get out of bed, say your prayers, do your Course in Miracles, do what you do. And you say, "My goal when I'm with this person today is inner peace. I want the peace of God more than I want conflict. I don't care what this person says. They can do whatever they want to do. But I do not have to accept their negation. I will stay in my peace sphere, and the only thing that can enter my space is positive, loving energy. The only thing that will go out of my space is positive, loving energy, and then I will be whole with myself and God, and I have deep faith that my wholeness and my centeredness and my connection to Spirit will spill over to that person, and I will maximize our chance to transform this relationship to one of love. And thus what seemed to be a prison and a lockdown becomes a chamber of awakening. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's such a delight to be with you. Please send your comments. Please stay with us every day, and each day we'll go a little deeper and we'll take another angle. Love you lots. Have a wonderful day. Aloha from Hawaii.